Pretty cool, huh? My uncle gave me his anvil. Save for a crack in the face there, which I had to chase out a little bit, it's pretty much pristine. But wait, you might ask, how is he moving the camera like this? Well, simple counterweighted parallelogram thingy attached to a big old crane-looking arm with about 100 pounds of counterweight, all mounted on a big old bearing bolted to the rafters. It needs a little tweaking, but that's not what we're here for. We're making another axe. So, 1.5 inches from the back. That sounds plausible. Into the fire. I've shown a lot of nice zoomed in footage of punching the eye. So now I'm going to zoom out a little bit and try and give you some context. We've got our water bucket, we've got the charcoal dust in a little bucket here, we got a punch, we got a blacksmith, and a press. Let's go!
Catch the punch right there, that's a very important move, and then gently, just gently, make sure we're getting it centered right on that center punch mark. Tap it in there. Again, just gently. Looks good. Quench. Put on a little bit more of that powder, and let's go for it. Love seeing that little pop of dust as it pops free.
So on one pass, I'd say that's already about 1/3 of the way through. It's a little bit off-center to one side. I'm going to try to correct that on this next pass, but if it doesn't, it's easy to correct after the hole is punched.
There's a really good video on correcting hammer eyes and such. I'll link it in the description. You should definitely check it out. I cut out a little bit here, but actually not much.
Just knock that out. Nice.
Got my drift. We're gonna get it in there since I'm still using a round punch. Before I go to the press, I like to get it started here to make sure it stays aligned properly. I'll use a slap punch eventually. I just need to practice with it some more so I can make videos where it doesn't just get stuck all the time.
This is a new version designed to give more support on the bottom. This one, of course, is designed for this guy.
This nice new bottom tooling I have has interchangeable tops for different drifts and punches and things. Should support it better while I'm putting the drift through. Now I'm fiddling with it a little bit here because it didn't quite go straight, and I don't want to push it through hard before it's aligned properly.
It's a good start. Keeping it nice and hot. Back in the fire.
It's also worth noting that I'm starting with a piece of material that's almost square in cross-section, and I think for an axe I really want something a bit thinner and a bit taller, and that would make a lot of these operations you're going to see me do much faster. But once it's thinner, you probably don't want to be using a round punch. You probably want to be using a slot punch. So yeah, squeeze it down, the part that got bulged out just by putting the hole through, and then I'm going to pinch down the rest of the material and start spreading it out to get it out of the way so I can continue working the steel on either side of the eye. Now you can see here the drift is all the way through almost already, but I have a lot more work to do, so I end up having to go up a drift size, and I think it makes sense to not push the drift through nearly as fast as I did in this video. Bumped the camera, sorry about the wobble. Do let me know in the comments if that's too much. I am going to be adjusting this thing to be a little bit more sturdy. If you can manage to switch between your different dies, it's very useful. There I was able to put the drift in, switch to the other dies, and then pop it right back out again. Now I tried this with the last axe, but the shape was already way too out of whack to work. Look at this. You do the adjustments sooner in the process. You just straighten it up like that. Well, not straighten it up, bias it downward so the top is flat and the bottom is curved. Doing so can mess up the eye a little bit, so here I'm just tweaking, making sure that the drift goes through nice and straight. Clean up the cheeks, draw them out a bit more on the press, and then I'm going to switch over to the anvil, because really the press doesn't work nearly as well on thin stuff as it does thick stuff. It cools too quickly. Hand hammering on the anvil, with the rounding hammer especially, is as quick, if not quicker, and it's a heck of a lot more fun. As you forge it out like that, you only want to forge on the wide side of the drift. It tends to push the drift out a bit, so you have to tap it back in. That's pretty good. So, let's look at this high carbon steel bit. That's a 1084 bit, and I need to make a slot to put it in and then fit it to the slot. To do that, I'm just going to use my angle grinder because hot chiseling it is much more time consuming, and honestly, I think it's a lot harder to keep it straight. And then I'm going to draw those out a little bit so that they're tapered. This will help the forge weld, since I'm planning on leaving a bunch of the 1084 sticking out. You don't want the large, thick square ends sort of shearing into the 1084 when you do the weld. So you taper the ends. Now I'm trying to follow along with a process that I saw in a Mark Asbury video, and I've read about it in other places, but I will link that video as well because it's an excellent, excellent tutorial.
Hey, there we go.
I have never had much luck chiseling apart two pieces of steel which have been pushed together. You gotta get it down to a lower temperature than you think, because it's too high, it just wants to cut a new groove, which you don't want. Anywho, all opened up, cleaned out with a grinder. Let's get this bit prepared. I'm just going to grind a slight arc into it and then taper it as well, so that it fits nicely into that little Y shape.
I'll go in like that. Now, rather than weld it, I'm going to cut some little spiky bits onto this with the chisel, and then heat this up red and squish it around those spikes, which will lock this in place for the forge welding. At least that's the theory. Neat. Like this. Yes, spiky bits, they spike. There goes the hammer. Here comes the borax, both sides.
Time to forge weld.
Woo! Sorry, slight time warp. It was very late when I finished the forge welding, and I jumped right into grinding because I wanted to see how I did. So this is right about where the forge welding line should be. It looks pretty good. On this side. This side did not weld. It was a new technique I've never tried before. Nope. I think I've identified probably where the issue happened. No! As I said, there was a lot of scale all the way through. Well, the part that didn't weld, which means it probably scaled up almost right away while I was setting up to do the weld when I was getting the bit lodged in there. To fix it, it could be as simple as just grind this more regular so that I can cut another piece of 1084 and another slice of this material, the forklift tine, whatever it is, and build up a little sandwich and try to forge weld it again.
And so I did. And after all the grinding and taking it all back down again,
I think that came out okay.
so now I just gotta clean that all up. I mean, it's kind of a wibbly mess in there with all the grinding and welding and grinding and welding. But that's okay. We get it worked out, cleaned up, do a bit more work on the eye, and well, it's time to grind it. Now I'm going to show a little bit more this time, since I've got this cool camera boom. It makes it a bit easier to get in there. Walking around the tripod before was really a huge issue.
This is the good side. Got that nice line there. This is the patch side, and you can just see there's the patch there, and up here it runs to the edge. Gotta take off more from this side and then knock it over.
So after grinding off a bit more here, I do end up heating it up again and then straightening it over a little bit to make sure the high carbon steel is a bit more centered. But we're just going to skip on past that. Profiling, bringing it down to size and weight. I wasn't feeling too confident about the profile of the axe until after this step, and I really like what I came up with.
Several hours later.
And then after taking it all the way up through the grits,
Ta-da!
I mean, to like, I don't know, 220. We're gonna jump into normalizing. Just like usual, I'm gonna do 3 normalization cycles. Now this axe is for my friend Ian, and you might find him at the Renaissance Festival in a kilt and doing a Scottish accent, so...
Aye, laddie. That'll do.
I felt this was appropriate. I intended to put the touch marks in before hardening. I just forgot. I'm gonna do a quick water quench of the back of the axe here. The steel that I'm using there is perfectly happy with water quenches. It does not get super hard, but it's perfectly fine for a hammering face.
That looks pretty good. I'm gonna check it and then clean it again. Give it a quick temper. And that should be the last you see of this until it is a finish.
So now let's make a handle. Grab a piece of hickory here.
Yeah, we can get what I need out of that. Then we just pop that right over to my table saw and chop saw.
Yeah, I'm still... I'm so close to getting the shop like properly cleaned up and reorganized. And when it's done, I'm going to do a quick shop tour, either as part of a video or as a standalone thing.
This is about the time you remember, oh shit, I was gonna buy a bandsaw for cutting handles out. Ugh. So using that as a guide, line this up on top. Because of the shape of it, you can't get very exact here. Somewhere in that ballpark. Let the voiceover me do the explaining.
We're undercutting here so that I can chisel out from the top. You gotta be really careful not to cut too far. Just sighting down from the top and guessing. Just leave an extra, I don't know, eighth, quarter, whatever you feel comfortable with. And be mindful of the way the wood grain is gonna wanna make the chips split out. It's really nice and straight, you don't have to worry about it too much. It's slightly angled here, as you can see. Now I don't remember actually exactly why I decided to do this with the chisel, other than maybe it'd be easier to show, I guess. It would definitely have been faster on the grinder. Of course, you can overshoot on the grinder really easily. Anyway, once you get it on there, you pound it on, and you can see that mark in the wood. You just start carving away the pieces that are marked by the metal, till eventually it fits on nice, and it's on to the next step.
Rough shape marked out here. This is the part where I should have a bandsaw.
This actually works pretty well. I would really love a, chest-mounted point of view angle so you can really see it, but this isn't too bad. The other thing is, I moved the grinder off of that big hollow cabinet, and it's quieter now, which makes speeding up the sound and such way more bearable. The next project is making my new grinder, because this one is very worse for the wear and does all sorts of funky things, like throw belts at me, which is no good.
After that.
Handle. Pretty basic. It's pretty nice. Wedge. Not forgetting anything, right? Another axe. I'm gonna put a coat of linseed oil on this, sharpen it up, and the finish. And I'm quite pleased with that. Touch marks went in pretty well as well. Yeah. Now I gotta finish cleaning up this mess. Oh gosh. And make a new grinder and probably live stream some stuff. I don't know. Catch you next time.